Gog and Magog were considered the ancestors of the Hungarians in some of the earliest writing about their history. Or rather, Gog of Magog. This is a character that occurs in the Bible, Jewish traditions, the Quran, though translations have made their identities kind of confusing. A character named Magog is referred to as Noah's grandson in Genesis, and in 1st Chronicles, Gog is a different person in the genealogy of Jacob. The real apocalyptic stuff comes in Ezekiel and Revelations. Ezekiel gets a prophecy that Gog from the land of Magog will team up to defeat Israel in the end of days, but they will be defeated by God, who will set fire to the country of Magog. Then in Revelations, this prophecy is repeated, but this time it's Gog and Magog, who have been deceived by Satan to form a coalition against God's beloved city, but God sends a fire out of heaven to devour them. The ambiguity about these characters, or maybe nations, has turned them into powerful symbols for the various civilizations encountered by the Christian, Jewish, and Islamic worlds. In the Alexander romances, a very popular fiction about Alexander the Great, written in the 4th century AD, Gog and Magog are understood as the kings of unclean nations who were defeated by Alexander and walled off behind some mountains. They are also described as cannibals. Early Christians identified Gog and Magog with the Romans. Roman Christianity identified Gog and Magog with the Goths, but by the 9th centuries, Gog and Magog were regularly identified with nomadic steppe civilizations, so Scythians, Khazars, the Mongols eventually, and yes, even the Hungarians. There are records of arguments about whether the Hungarians, who had just arrived in Europe and were engaged in raids as far as Spain and the Netherlands, were Gog and Magog, who would usher in the end of times. In the Gesta Hungarorum, the oldest surviving history of the Hungarians, written about 1200 and considered a pretty unreliable work of myth-making, promotes the lineage of Hungarian kings coming from Gog and Magog as a positive thing. Here it's written that the Scythians were the peoples of Gog and Magog who Alexander walled in, and that the first Scythian king was Magog, that both Attila the Hun and the Hungarian monarchy were descended from Magog's lineage, and that even the Hungarian word Magyar comes from Magog. This myth endured throughout Hungarian literature and was even resurrected by Romantic poets like Endre Ady, one of the greatest modern Hungarian writers. His poem, I Am the Son of King Gog of Magog, resurrects this myth to explore the tension between the Hungarians' European identity and their Eastern origins. You'll also encounter the Gog and Magog myth in some Hungarian conspiracy circles online, usually through like an ancient alien lens, but I've noticed pranks from all cultures talking about Gog and Magog. George W. Bush even used Gog and Magog to justify the Iraq War. So all in all, I find it really interesting how this association, used often as an insult, was reconstructed by Hungarians historically to better conceptualize their history.